Good morning. All right, we'll wait a second. See if anyone comes on live today. Plug my charger in. Good morning. Okay, so I think today we'll start on our backs and we'll do some hamstring stretches. If you have a strap, you can grab that. And just have it handy. But we'll center laying on our backs today. And so this class will be some shoulder strength and hamstring length. That's what I'm feeling like I need in my body today, and so that's what everyone gets. Go ahead and just lay down in constructive rest. Just let your feet go about mount distance apart and your knees knocked together. And rest your hands anywhere that feels really nurturing and centering to you. Hands on lower belly sounds like a good idea to me, but you could even just have your hands along your sides. You can choose. Just kind of let yourself arrive this morning into your breath and into your body. And just start to notice your breath as it comes in and out of your nose. And with the support of the floor underneath your rib cage and underneath your back, and start to invite the air into the lowest lobes of your lungs and let your low ribs expand into the floor. And let your side ribs expand out to the sides. And see if you can relax your neck and your shoulders and completely just let your collarbones relax. Just wake up our awareness and connection to our body by just starting with some rocks of your head from side to side. And they can be connected with the rhythm of your breath, but your breath can also just be kind of free form and natural. Just keep breathing as you rock your head from side to side. And you can even experiment with the different parts of your scalp that you're rocking on. So you can lift your chin, and you can tuck your chin. But really kind of pay attention to the sensation of the pressure on the skin and the tissue between your skin and your skull. You might feel the texture of your hair also. We're just waking up our ability to really feel our body. A lot of times we can be really just disconnected from the sensations there. And especially if we are in a body that has chronic pain, it can be really helpful for us to learn how to deeply feel the parts of our body that are not in pain. And to get into all of the nuances of that sensation there. So we're just rocking our heads from side to side. And it might feel good to start rocking your knees the opposite direction as your head, just gently, kind of windshield wipering your knees to the left as you look to the right, knees to the right as you look to the left, and eyes can be opened or closed. And start to feel this rocking on the back of your pelvis. You can feel it on the back of your rib cage. Just a couple more breaths. This is just all to just really arrive in your body. And we'll do a little bit of a shoulder stretch. So take your right arm, bend your elbow, and just place that hand palm face down underneath the lower back. Or you can bend that elbow more and bring your hand up toward your left shoulder blade. You just kind of listen to what feels friendly in your shoulder. And you can keep that rocking of your head and your knees. And let it just kind of feel friendly, but ease some opening into that shoulder. And if you're rocking your knees and it feels okay to drop your knees to the right and just kind of pause there, keep your gaze straight up and then lengthen up through your left arm. Long exhales. And then bring your knees back to center, roll over to the left. And bring that right arm out from underneath you. And we'll just find that same thing on the other side. So left palm underneath your lower back, palm face down. You can bend your elbow more and bring your hand towards your shoulder blade. You just place that hand palm face down anywhere underneath your back. And you can just find those rocks again. Tipping your head from side to side, knees from side to side. Just kind of gentling into that shoulder. And next time knees come to the left, just keep your gaze up at the ceiling. Let your knees drop any amount. I mean, they can just be kind of leaning a little bit. And then you can lengthen right arm up alongside your ear. And then release. If you have your strap, just bring it, put it somewhere that it's within reach, and we'll start working on our hamstrings. But just take your right knee and just kind of draw little circles. They don't need to be big. Try to keep your pelvis pretty level, and you can go the other direction. And then take your leg kind of straight. It doesn't have to be all the way straight, and just stir those circles. And then find your strap and loop it over the ball of your foot or just below the ball of your foot and lengthen. And just hold onto your strap. Find the natural curves of your spine, so the back of your head, back of your heart, back of your pelvis are on the floor. You've got a little space under your neck. Your lowest ribs are down, but you have space under your lower back. And then maybe you can lengthen that left leg long, lengthen through the front of that left hip. And just breathe into the back of that right leg. You can sway it from side to side a little bit and just gently floss through all the strings of your hamstrings. And just a morning gentle into those muscle fibers. And you don't really need to go to the fullest extent of your stretch. In fact, don't go to the fullest extent of your stretch. Just kind of friendly yourself and sway into that space. And then we'll just switch sides. So right foot down, left knee in circles. And say hi to your hip joint for the day. You can go around the other way. And then a straight leg. It doesn't have to be all the way straight. We're just finding some kind of free form movement here. Just find little circles. There. And then loop your strap just below the ball of your foot and lengthen that leg. I like to have straight arms so you're not like using a whole bunch of clenching energy in those bent arms. You can just use straight arms, reach up as high as you can, and then let your arms just be heavy. You can keep the natural curves of your spine and lengthen that right leg. And then you can just sway that left leg from side to side. And you can use anything as a strap. You could go grab a kitchen towel, a tie or a belt or a scarf. Just let this leg sway. Notice the difference between right and left. Just one more breath there. And then release your strap. There's one more thing laying on our backs. Interlace your fingers and reach those knuckles up toward the ceiling. Push into your feet. Lift your hips and then bring your palms toward your heart. And then lower your hips down and reach your knuckles up toward the ceiling. And just go at your own pace. Connect this with your breath. Get acquainted with your spine, the strength of your glutes and your hamstrings. Feel the space between your shoulder blades. So shoulder blades come together as your hands come toward your heart and your hips lift. Shoulder blades reach apart or spread apart as you reach your knuckles up. Just do 2 more there. And then release. Roll straight forward or roll to your side with just coming to our hands and knees. And just arrive. You can rock from side to side, do circles forward and back. Feel what's happening in your wrists and your hands here. And then step your right foot outside of your right hand and play here in just a really free form, moving low lunge. So we've started getting into that hamstring. You can have your hands up on blocks if this is really taxing on your lower back. Just stir your hips in circles. You can straighten through that right leg and bend your knee. And take a breath or two with that straight right leg. Hands back any amount or as high as they need to be. And just sway your hips from side to side. And so your toes will kind of steer with that, and that's fine. Just think of knees and toes, your knee and toes tracking the same direction. And then bend into your right knee. Come up into a low lunge that's not super deep. Just hips stacked over that left knee. You can pad your knee if you need to, and we'll find some shoulder cars with that left arm. So lead with your thumb. Reach it as far back as you can. Till you can't reach anymore, lead with your pinky and come around. And you can hold on to your ribs to keep them forward. We'll just do 3 back and forth. Just think leading with your thumb till you can't lead anymore, and then you can rotate through that shoulder, reach back. And really just reach. And last one, back and forth. And now push down into your left shin and just float your right heel up off the floor. And then float that right toes up off the floor. You can balance here. We're going to take our right foot and bring it right to the right. So your right heel is in line with your left knee. Okay. And then bring your right hand down inside that right knee. Reach your left arm up and just find some bend in your ankle, your knee, and your hip. This is really more hip opener, getting into ankle and knee flexion than it is a side bend. Let's take one more pulse there. And then bring your right forearm to your right thigh and lengthen your left arm alongside your ear. So we've got this little side angle thing happening here. And then just take some big circles of your left arm again. Different configuration, and find some leverage of that right arm on your right thigh. And they're just swims. You can go back the other way. And then come upright. Turn your right toes forward. Lengthen through that right knee. And now your left knee draws a line to that right arch. And bring your right hand to your right leg and find your side bend again here. Engage through that left glute so you're kind of clearing through the front of this hip. Lengthen. Swim that left hand down to the floor. Come on your fingertips or flat palm and reach your left arm up. And find a big side stretch here. And then big shoulder circles around with that right arm. Just 2 or 3 times in each direction. And then take your left hand to the floor. We'll just walk our right hand to the floor. Walk your hands to the right. So now you're in this table with your right leg out, and just find some cat and cow. Try to keep your pelvis as level as possible as you do this, lifting your sitting bones and your gaze, and then really tucking your tailbone under. And then find a neutral spine. Inhale, right arm up. And then just thread it past. And find some dynamic twisting here. So reach it up and then thread it past. And just do one more. Reach up, bring your right hand down. Keep your pelvis as level as you can. Flex through your right foot. And then float that right leg straight up, parallel with the floor. Swim it around and come to your table. And now find your little circles again. And go the other way. And step your left foot outside of your left hand and just play with your lunge here. Swaying your hips around and straighten and bend through that left leg. And then take a breath or two with a pretty straight left leg. Doesn't have to be all the way straight. And walk your hands back as much as you need to. Just let your knee and your toes track the same direction, so you're not sickling through your ankle anyway. And then bend into your left knee. Come on up into your low lunge. And we'll find those shoulder cars with the right arm. So lead with your thumb. Keep your rib cage pointing forward so you're not moving the shoulder with your ribs. And just reach around, leading with your thumb till you can't go any further. And then internally rotating and leading with your pinky to go around. One last back and forth. And then float your left heel up off the floor. Really push down into that right shin. See if you can float your toes up off the floor. And then we'll bring that leg straight out to the left. So your heel is in line with your toes. Bring your left hand inside. Right arm up and bend. Getting into all of those joints on that lower left leg. Your knee, your ankle, your hip. And then left forearm to left thigh. Reach your right arm over and find your big circles here. And find some leverage. And then switch directions. And come on upright. Take your left toes, point them forward and lengthen through that knee. And then find your side bend. Left hand alongside that left leg. Reach through your right arm. And you can engage a little through that right glute. And find length through your whole left side body. Come on up. Right fingertips or hand to the floor and reach your left arm up. And again, big arm circles here. Let's do it 3 times in each direction. And then you can take your left hand down, walk it forward. So now you're in a table with that left leg out, and find some cat and cow. Lifting your sitting bones and your gaze, and then really tucking and rounding everything. After an exhale, come to a neutral spine. Inhale, left arm up, and then just find those twists. Just thread past. Really think of reaching from behind your shoulder blade. Reach up and past. And then reach up. Left hand down. Try to keep your pelvis level. Flex through your left foot. We're going to lift that left leg so it's parallel with the floor, just straight out to the side. And then slowly swim it around back and come to your table. Let your hips come towards your heels and just lift your palms. And then hips all the way towards your heels. Lift your hands. Keep the wrists on the floor. Rock up and lift your palms. Rock back and lift your fingers. Just back and forth a couple of times. And then come up to your table, rock your heart forward, and just bend your elbows maybe 2 inches. Come back up and push into a child's pose. Rock yourself up and all the way forward. Bend your elbows maybe a little more this time. Think about really just keeping your spine pretty stable and these low ribs drawing in. As you find this little baby chaturanga push-up, as you rock forward. And then you can start to experiment with maybe as you come up and rock forward, tucking your toes and floating your knees, and then pushing yourself back. There's a lot going on here, right? This really is a whole body movement. So grab the floor with your hands in a way that feels really supportive. And you don't have to lift your knees. Let's just rock forward and back one more time. And then rest in child's pose. Find a place to rest your forehead. So maybe that's the floor. Maybe it's stacked fists. Your hips can be as high as they need to be. Maybe even just rock your head from side to side, dropping one armpit and then the other with your arms long in front of you. And then slide forward into a sphinx. So we'll come onto our bellies, elbows underneath your shoulders. And your feet can go as wide as your mat if you want. Just let them feel pretty natural in a way that feels supportive of your lower back. So your elbows, you don't want them back behind your shoulders. So either under your shoulder or maybe even a little bit in front of your shoulder. Okay, but that's where we want to be. Let's tuck your chin. And then you can lift. And tuck your chin and drop an ear toward a shoulder. Tuck your chin, drop the other ear toward the other shoulder. Come back to center. And then lift. Tuck your chin and then really draw your sternum in. And then drop your sternum forward and then feel like you're lifting and lengthening as you pull your elbows back without moving them anywhere. And do that a couple times. Dropping your chin, really rounding through your upper spine, drawing your sternum in, lifting your lower ribs up off the floor. And then dropping all that down, lengthening through the back of your neck. You can feel like you're pulling your elbows back without moving them anywhere to broaden through your collarbones and reach your heart forward. Just do that one more time. And then bring your hands together. Push into your outer wrists. You can draw your elbows so they're right under your shoulders. Tuck your toes. Lift those low ribs, lift your belly, lift your pelvis. Lift maybe your thighs and your knees into a forearm plank. Feel like you're drawing your tailbone towards your heels. And let the back of your neck be long. Draw those lowest ribs up and in. And then drop your right hip toward the floor. Roll into a boat pose. So you can hold on to the backs of your legs, or you can float your arms. And then bring your feet to the floor. Plant your hands behind you and draw your shoulder blades together. Now push into your hands, push into your feet. Just feel that activation as if you were going to lift your hips up. Don't lift them yet. And then release that effort. Find a position for your hands that feels integrated from that pinky edge of your hand all the way up into your back, and then lift your hips. And we're just going to push up into this reverse table a few times. So just lifting and lowering. Finding that shoulder extension. Last time. And then just roll back onto hands and knees. And then bring your forearms to the floor. I'll face you to do this. So forearms on the floor, and take your right forearm, keep it on the floor, forearm from the tips of your fingers all the way to your elbow, okay? And you're just gonna slide your hand forward and then slide it back. So this is happening from, you can feel it happening in your shoulder blade, just sliding forward and sliding back, and then you can go out maybe to a 30-degree angle the other direction. Or to the right, I should say. And I'm kind of sticky on my floor, so I kind of use my fingers to creep, which is fine. Maybe even out to 45 degrees. So you're trying to keep the rest of your body pretty still as you slide. Go back to straight forward once or twice. Trying to keep that whole forearm connected with the floor. And then you can stop and we'll just try the other hand. So slide your left hand forward, reaching from that shoulder, and then come back. So your forearm, your whole forearm is connected with the floor. So you may be tempted, like you could reach and lift your elbow off the floor, right, and reach further. But keep your elbow down as you reach. Maybe slide out to an angle. But just that arm is moving, the rest of your body is still. And 360-degree breath into those lowest ribs. And slide forward once or twice. And then come back to kneeling, kind of shake that out. And then we'll try it with our palms face up. So come down, forearms to the floor. Keep your elbows grounded and reach your thumbs toward the floor. And then just slide your right arm forward and just play with angles here. Just moving through that shoulder in all different ways. And then try your other arm. Keeping that elbow down, reaching your thumb toward the floor. And just move it in all different ways. And then go ahead and come onto your knees. You can do some rolls of your neck if that feels necessary. And we'll play with our chaturanga child. So lean forward, heart drops, and then hips to heels. Lean forward and drop your heart and hips to heels. And you can kind of play with the position of your hands in a way that feels strong and stable. Think of external rotation of your upper arms. If you want to play with floating your knees, feel free. You could even think of, instead of coming up into a table before you lower down, with your knees tucked, you just try to keep your elbows and your whole body just hovers forward and stays at the same level as you go forward and back. Just do one more. And then slide into your Sphinx. Forearms on the floor. And let's stretch through our shoulders here. So find that 90-degree angle of one of your arms. We're going to do both sides, so it doesn't matter. If 90 degrees just feels too intense, you can do a straight arm. Look away from that bent arm. You can tent your other hand by your chest and just roll toward that bent elbow or your outstretched arm. Maybe you come all the way onto your side. Relax your shoulder toward the floor. And then come back onto your belly. Just switch. So arrange your other arm either straight out or elbow bent at 90 degrees. Turn your head away from that arm and roll. And you can come onto your side any amount. With that shoulder that's stretching, try to relax it toward the floor. And if it's too much, you can always have a pillow under your head or a block under your head. And then come back to center. Come back into your Sphinx. And then we'll make our way right into that forearm plank. Push into your outer wrists. Tuck your toes. Draw your low ribs in. Pelvis lifts. Thighs, knees lift. You can do this with your knees down. But just think of one solid line from the tip of your head out through your tailbone. Okay. The back of your head, the back of your heart, and the back of your pelvis would all be on a board if you set a board on your back. And then left hip to the floor. Come into that boat pose. You can hold on to the backs of your legs or float. Maybe this time lengthen. But think of length through your lower back. And then bend both knees. Bring your hands behind you. And again, we'll play with that reverse table. And you can play with the placement of your hands. You can also play with straight legs and do a reverse plank. Bringing the soles of your feet to the floor. It's a little more back body strength and core work. Just do one more, table or reverse plank. And then roll back onto hands and knees. And make your way into child's pose. Come back into your table. Bring your forearms to the floor. This time you can interlace your fingers. Tuck your toes and lift your hips up and back for dolphin. And drop your heels toward the floor. Push through those outer wrists. You can just stay here. Feel the strength through your shoulders. Or you can play with rocking your chin toward your hands and then lengthening back. And move pretty slowly. So you're going with control. Whenever you're done, come into a child's pose. Let yourself rest. Either arms outstretched or hands back by your feet. And then we'll slide into puppy pose. So just reach your arms forward. Bring your hips so they stack over your knees. Lengthen your arms out in front of you as much as you can. Drop your heart toward the floor. So forehead maybe to the floor or block. Or chin to the floor and heart toward the floor. And then slide your hands in, and we'll make our way to downward facing dog. The first downward facing dog of our practice. Feel that strength and support through your shoulders. Find space for your neck. And find the connection of your hands to the floor. Think of spreading your fingers in a way that lets you find as much contact with the floor as feels supportive for you. And you can have more weight on the pinky edge of your hand. And think of spreading your shoulder blades apart. And we'll come to a standing forward fold. So you can walk your feet forward, you can walk your hands back, or do a little combination of both. And just come into standing forward fold. Bend your knees as much as you need to. And then come all the way to standing. You can reach your arms high, lengthen here, and then exhale, hands to your heart. Just pause and check in. You can close your eyes or have them open. Just feel the quality of the energy in your body. And feel your heartbeat. Feel your breath. Release your hands and just take a big, wide stance facing the long edge of your mat. Start with a warrior two to the right. So turn those right toes to the right. Bend into that right knee. And open up into your warrior two. You can lift your toes and kind of feel like you're spreading the mat apart, pulling your mat apart. So your feet are pulling apart from each other. And drop your toes. Drop your left hand. Inhale to reverse your warrior. Just reach your right arm up. And then exhale into side angle pose. Find a few big circles here. Just like we did at the beginning, find that leverage of your right forearm into your right thigh. Find length through your neck. And switch directions. And next time your arm comes straight up, internally rotate that shoulder. So you're going to turn your palm to face away from you. Bend your elbow and just bring that left hand to your right lower back. You can lean back into it a little bit. Engage through that right glute. Lengthen from your left heel out through the crown of your head. And then maybe you could turn your chin to look toward that right or left shoulder. And then you can just let your right ear come toward your left shoulder and lengthen through your neck here. And then lift your head. Unwind your arm. Lengthen through that right leg. Draw your right outer hip back. Lean forward and then open yourself into a triangle. So you can float your right fingertips. You can ground them, but think about your hip strength and your core strength holding you up. You're not leaning into your arm, wherever that arm is, or to the floor outside. Push into your right big toe ball mound. Draw your right hip back, your glute back. Lengthen through the crown of your head. And then come on up. Parallel your feet. And just turn to the left. Bend into that left knee. You can sway your hips a little bit. And then just get yourself into your warrior two. Reach your arms long. Lift all 10 of your toes and just really ground into the floor. Enjoy your breath. And then drop your right hand. Ground your toes if they're still lifted. And reach your left arm up. Reverse your warrior. And then come into your side angle pose. Left forearm on left thigh. Find those big shoulder circles. So we want the freedom to move these shoulders, and we also want the strength to support. Next time your arm comes straight up, internally rotate your shoulder, bend your elbow and bring that hand behind you. So the back of your hand is on your lower back. Use some leverage in your left forearm to lengthen, and then maybe lean your right shoulder back a little bit into your forearm on your back. You can turn your head and look chin toward that shoulder. And then you can look forward and drop your left ear toward your left shoulder. And then lift your head, unwind your arms, come on up, straighten your left leg, draw that left outer hip back, hinge from your hip to come into your triangle pose. So maybe you float that hand, maybe you ground it, but feel stable from your connection to the ground and use that to lengthen up and out. So every limb is lengthening here. And you can even think of your head as one of those limbs. Let your gaze go where's comfortable for your neck. And then come on up. Parallel your feet. You can have hands on hips and draw your elbows toward each other, or interlace your fingers behind your back. Draw your elbows toward each other. Soften your knees just a little bit and send your inner groin back to fold halfway forward, and just pause with a flat back. Lift all 10 of your toes and then lengthen through the crown of your head. Push your inner thighs back. And then you can let yourself fold maybe a little more. Head toward the floor. Maybe if you've got your fingers interlaced, you bring your arms overhead. And then release your arms. Just bring your fingertips to the floor. Bend your knees as much as you need to. And then deeply bend into your right knee. You can lift your left toes. and then come up through center and go the other way. And you can lift that bottom heel. You don't even have to bend very far. You can just go back and forth. Just getting into those hamstrings. Next time you bend through your left knee and straighten your right leg, just going to come down and sit. So you can use your hands as much as you need to and sit on the floor. So you've got the straight right leg, bent left knee. Take your right hand and just grab your outer left shin or ankle and resist into that. And then you can find a side bend over to your right. So resist your shin into your hand as you lengthen here. Maybe you can kind of bring that right shoulder down inside that right thigh. Maybe your fingers find your foot. None of that's necessary. And then come on up. Take this left leg and just cross it outside your right knee. Wrap that right arm around your knee and find your twist here. So your right knee and toes are pointing straight up toward the ceiling. Lengthen and look. Unwind your twist, and now you'll take this left knee and stack it on top of your right knee as any amount, or just cross this leg. You can just come foot to inner thigh. You can try this crossing knee. So we've got kind of this half Gomukhasana leg. Lengthen your spine, and then let yourself lean forward over those stacked knees any amount. So this kind of gives some pressure to the top of your right leg. So your right leg has to stay straight. So you may not be able to fold very far. That's fine. Just kind of find that place. And breathe into your hamstring. And then come on up. Uncross your legs. And then just find a crisscross applesauce. Rock into a downward facing dog for a breath. Find a standing forward fold. Walk your hands back or feet forward. Pause there. Come to standing. And then take a long stance toward the long edge of your mat. And we're just going to go right into that skandasana, or like Spider-Man. So you can stay upright and just bend into one knee and then the other. You can bring your fingers to the floor. You can kind of come into crouching. You could play with doing it without hands. And next time your left leg is straight, use your hands as much as you need to, just to come sit down. And then reach with your left hand for that right shin or ankle and resist. Okay. And then you can kind of use that leverage to twist into a side bend. And you can play with maybe bringing that shoulder down inside your left knee, maybe finding feet. but none of that is necessary. You can just push that right shin away. And come on up. And take your right foot outside of your left knee. Wrap your left forearm around your right knee and just find your twist here. Unwind your twist and then find that either stacking of your knee or you can just bring your foot here. So your left knee and toes are pointing straight up. And you've got this kind of feedback to make this bottom leg stay straight. Just lead with your heart to hinge forward at your hip, any amount. And just lengthen through the back of your left leg. And you can curve yourself over this top leg, but just do it in a way that feels like it's honoring your back. And then come on up. Let's do one more thing for our hamstrings. Just find a wide-legged forward fold. If you find your tailbone really tucking underneath you here, sit on a block or a folded blanket or some pillows. Just get that forward tilt of your pelvis. And then lead with your heart to come forward any amount. You can sway from side to side. You can find some softness in the back of your knees. They don't have to be 100% straight. And then walk yourself up. Bring your hands behind your knees. Just bend your knees. Make your way to your back. And just curl yourself in a little ball. You can rock from side to side. You can steer your knees in circles one direction, then the other. Let your arms go out to a T and drop your knees to the right. Look to the left. Even bring your hand into that left hip crease, like your right thumb, and kind of traction. Push that hip crease away from you and maybe even reach your left arm up. So you're just lengthening that whole left side. You can kind of push your left thigh down toward the foot of your mat. And then just switch sides. Bring your knees in towards center and then drop them to the right. You can look to your left. If you did that little self-adjustment, you can bring your thumb or even just the palm of your hand into that right hip crease and kind of traction, push that right hip down. You can reach your right arm up alongside your ear. You guys hear my kitty? She's hungry. And then release. Roll onto your back. Just find something symmetrical, maybe curling into a ball, giving yourself as big of a hug as you can, and just squeezing everything. Squeezing, squeezing, squeezing your face, your feet, squeezing your knees and your arms. Just tense everything in your body. And then completely let go and find yourself laying on your mat in your savasana. Palms face up. And feel all of your connections with the floor. And let those connections with the floor just increase. You can kind of imagine you're in sand, and that body print that you're making is getting deeper. And you just have the support of the ground underneath you and your whole body. You can bring your awareness to your feet and just feel the aliveness that's there. Bring your awareness to your hands. Feel the temperature of the air, the relaxation and the curve in your fingers that creates. And just let your whole body relax and absorb that movement. It's in this deep rest that our body really integrates and learns and repatterns itself. So it's so important that we give ourselves some time after any effort. And feel free to stay here as long as you can let yourself. And when you're ready, you can make your way to a seat. The divine light in me honors the divine light in you. Hope you have a beautiful and wonderful day. Namaste.